Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Office Hours with Kent. I forgot to do my green screen, and I think it's cool enough to do a green screen. So I'm going to get that set up here in just a sec. Just putting the YouTube link in the Discord, turning on background and filters. We're going to put up space. Give me a sec. I think I'm going to have to turn it off and on again. What? I have a green screen. Okay, maybe I need to try pulling up the settings again. Nope. Oh, it manually. Yeah, okay. Let's go with that. Boom. That's better. That's funny. Okay, so and just move the camera over a bit. Thanks everybody for joining. Sorry that I'm a little bit later than usual. Like I said, I was just trying to get something going before I got going. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. Office Hours is your opportunity to ask me questions and I will give the best answer that I can. And yeah, I'm like, you can share your screen, you can post a question to, to the Discord here, and I will just go through these. You can join the Zoom and I give priority to folks who are in the Zoom. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention for anybody who is going through Epic React, I am in the process of updating all of the material, not the recordings, but the material to React 18. And I just finished React Performance as well. So I'm going to add that one here. So if you want to test that out, oh, and actually I also finished the testing one, except that one's a little bit unique, but testing React apps is also done. So that's most of them. Yep, and I pushed that, right? Yeah, that's pushed. So what's left is the Bookshelf app, which I have down here. I'm going to be testing that out and trying to get that updated. That one's the most complicated of all these, so hopefully it updates without any issue, but yeah, we'll see because it's a full app. But the React team was really responsible in React 18, and most things are pretty backward compatible, which is nice. But yeah, I'm going to try and get that one updated. But if you want to just run through all of these and make sure that everything works properly, that would help me feel confident that I can merge these into main, so everybody's working on the latest and greatest of React. And that is it. Oh, it also updates user event, which uses async await for all of the, or returns a promise for all of the APIs. So that is also a minor change. Okay, cool. So with all that said, and do let me know if you have any issues with those. Let's get started. Anybody in the Zoom call have a question for me?
I want to ask you something.
Yeah, hi.
So yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, let me stop sharing mine. There you go.
Yeah, so yeah, hi, nice to meet you. So yeah, I am very excited about the remix, and I'm I have many things I like about remix, but one of the good things is that it handles the state of the I like the form, which is managed by partially remix and also partially encouraging the uncontrolled inputs. And I was thinking about creating some library which embraces the uncontrolled inputs, and I want to get your thoughts, and ideally I'm thinking about what name is good for this library, but maybe that's too much. So yeah,
naming things is the hardest part.
Yeah. So Yeah, the idea is coming from this discussion, which I was trying to help, and that people want to make like a real JSON out of form, which was possible with PHP for according to this person, and I was like proposing some idea that gives some kind of inputs like this. And then this QS library can parse those kind of stuff to real JSON. So if we use this with Remix, then we can just, on the server side, we can use QS to regenerate, like rebuild the object. And and I try to build like something in the work. It's without Remix, but it's like I try to do like uncontrolled inputs, and then I found that it's a little bit difficult to dig into deep objects, and my idea for the library is to make some kind of namespace for input names. So how it looks like is that field set with uppercase can declare a namespace, and then inside input, it will recognize that. So it will render like this. And also, if you don't want to field set, then it will not render anything.
That makes sense.
Then it will also just give some function, which is just a wrapper of the QS parse function. So and I think it will also work nicely with Remix, just parsing the loader, the action. So
is there a reason that you're using the .text instead of .form data on the request?
Actually,
is that a requirement?
No, I think actually that is better. This library, would also provide.
It looks like it works with form data, so it should work.
But cool. Internally, like it uses like first get form, then the stringify to the query string, and then pass to QS. So my like candidates for the name, the library of the name is this, and I'm wondering. And I want to ask that, like, first of all, like, what do you think overall? And then if you think it's a great, then I'm like considering what are the best names. But maybe.
I think it's a great library, a great idea. There are definitely situations where having namespaces like that would be really useful. As far as the name, I guess a field set seems to make sense since that's the name of the component you're using. So something like the namespace to field set seems to work for me. The name is, I named one of my libraries testing library. So obviously I don't really think too hard about the name. Namespace field set seems like a pretty reasonable name for me.
Cool, thank you. It was just a little bit, uncomfortable for my mouth to pronounce, but
I guess that. I mean, you could also just make up a word, or I'm guessing based on your name, you're Japanese.
Yep.
Yeah, so you could like use some Japanese word. There's a lot more options for non-English words. There's like actually there's the set of libraries that I think all of them are Japanese words like jotai, and they're actually Zustand is a German word, but like using non-English words can be a good way to be able to grab exactly what you want and not worry about other people taking that already. So yeah, I think namespace field set would be good. Or if you wanted to just come up with something that's completely doesn't describe what it is, then that works too. I mean, we've got Gatsby that doesn't describe what that thing is at all, or even Next.js, and Remix. Yeah, I guess there's a little history with Remix name, and I expect there is for the other libraries too. But yeah, just something that you're interested in. I don't think it has to be anything that necessarily describes it either.
I see. Cool. Yeah, that helps. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a cool library. Definitely solves a problem that I think some people have. So that's cool. Cool. Anyone else in the Zoom call have a question for me, or should I go over to Discord?
I do have a question that is not quite well formed.
Okay.
I'm just, while we are talking, I'm experimenting to actually confirm it. But there was a use case that came up where one of my teams has an application, a React application, and they have in the header bar a toggle. And if they hit that toggle button, a couple of panels within the application should switch from view mode to edit mode. And they started using recoil for it, stating that, when we tried context, the full page started rendering, and we just wanted those two components to render when that toggle was hit. So my question really is, I have not yet tried their use case, but when so this context will obviously sit at the global root level, right? Because it has to kind of go at very disparate components. So if you change the state at the root level, will the entire tree re-render, or just the components that are consuming that context?
Yeah, great question. It kind of depends on how you've structured things, but the natural way to structure things will lead you to not re-render the whole thing. So I have this post, one simple trick to optimize React re-renders, that I will just share with you here. And so basically, yeah, the usual okay, so there are a couple of things to consider when you're using context for stuff like this. For one, you want to make sure that you limit the number of subscriber consumers to context. And then the other, you want to make sure that you structure things in the way that I demonstrate in here, which I'm trying to find a simple example, I guess. Oh, actually, I don't talk about this in the context of context, but the idea that, yeah, here's a good example, the Bookshelf app. So if we go to the context here, then we have all of our context providers, and then we're accepting children and putting those in there. Even if we didn't abstract that to its own component, and we instead just put it all right here, that would also be fine. So if you put all your context providers right here, you didn't have children or anything. That children isn't the key point here. The key point is that when there's a re-render of a component, so let's look at a specific, our own context provider here. So right here, we return the provider, we pass along the props and stuff. So there are a lot of things that can trigger a re-render of this auth provider. We've got logout and register, login, all that stuff. So when there's a re-render that's triggered in this component, this props has a children prop. That children prop is not going to be changed. That's going to be the exact same JSX element it was the last time we rendered. So even though we've changed a bunch of other things, we've changed the value, that children prop is special. And React will say, okay, you changed a bunch of stuff. Let me update everything. Oh, the children prop didn't change. I'm going to not even worry about re-rendering the children because I know that those children couldn't have possibly changed because it's the exact same JSX element as before. And so, and that's what this blog post is describing and demonstrating. But because of that, the only ones that are going to re-render are the ones that care about the context value that changed. And so I guess I should bump that up, sorry. And so, yeah, in practice, that typically is the case. And so, yeah, the challenge that you normally face with context is you have too many consumers, or you're updating it too much. And that's where Epic Reacts, the performance workshop, shows you how to avoid death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
Where you just be a little bit more surgical about your use of context. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you were talking about this is a form that you're popping up when that happens. Is that right?
No, it's not a form. It's just, there are a bunch of panels in the whole application, and they want only specific panels for consuming this particular context, which is, are you in edit mode or are you in view mode? They want only those panels to re-render. So from what you just said, I think this should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There are only 2 consumers out of 100 sitting there, and only they should be re-rendered.
Yep.
So I'm just going to do a little POC and make sure that there is no other use case that they are trying to hit. But
yeah,
anyway,
definitely worthwhile.
Thanks for that confirmation. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. I was going to say if it was a form, then that is a pretty often or like common issue that people run into. And I was going to reference this post, improve the performance of React forms. This actually, this approach that I demonstrate in this excerpt or in this blog post is just the normal and natural way to build forms with Remix. So there you go again. I got to plug my Remix.
I do have one more question, if you don't mind. Which is, React Query is a great library, and it does a lot of optimizations and cache and all that stuff. In this particular app that I'm talking about, they absolutely don't want any caching because it's a financial application, and whenever it feels like going to the server, it should go to the server and get the up-to-minute latest information. So instead of putting a dependency on React Query and features that we don't want, is there like a simpler wrapper that just gives, the is loading, is error type of functionality, just that and nothing more?
Yeah, there is. So first, I'll say that React Query isn't just great because of the caching. Well, actually, first I would say all of that is way easier with Remix. Like it gives you all the right knobs to turn for how much caching you want and everything. But React Query also has a lot of those knobs. It just is limited because it's only a client-side thing. Yeah, so with React Query, the benefit isn't just in the caching. It's also in the management of context and those loading states and everything. And so it gives you all the knobs you need to twist. If you say, I don't want any caching for this thing, the challenge if you don't use React Query and you do your own thing is, let's say you've got 2 sibling components that need some of the same data. With React Query, you can just use the same query key and we're all good. If you do it yourself, you have to lift the state and then pass it down as props. Which is fine, like that works out okay, but it's nice that React Query kind of manages that for you and keeps things up to date as you're navigating around and whatnot. So I would probably still recommend React Query in that scenario, but if you really don't want to, and you can't, actually, if you're using React Router, which you probably are, most people are, if we go to our blog, React Router is getting a bunch of features from Remix. Yeah, here it is, Remixing React Router. So a ton of the features that make React Query really awesome are going to be handled by React Router when it's been officially remixed, which is coming very soon. And migrating or upgrading from React Router v5 or v4 or whatever is a lot easier now as well, because we have the v5 compat package too. So if you're looking at getting something that can help you manage the network requests, invalidation due to mutations and all of that stuff, then I would suggest, I'm assuming that you're using React Router. Is that the case?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Almost everybody is. If you're not using Next or Gatsby, then using React Router. And if you're using Gatsby, you're using Reach Router, which is basically React Router. Yeah, so if you use this library to upgrade to React v6, and by the time you're done, we'll probably have all of the primary remix features in React Router. And so then you can start using really cool features like skip all this stuff that says, here's how bad it is, and here's how awesome it's going to be. So you've got your loader, you've got actions. Where are the actions? Yeah, you have actions for doing data mutations and stuff. Like, so many of the cool things that we love about Remix are coming to React Router. And so then you wouldn't need React Query either. You can just use React Router for all of that stuff. So yeah, but to finally answer your question, if you're like, well, no, React Query is not going to do it for us. A remixed version of React Router isn't going to do it for us. Then there is one last answer, which is like getting to the heart of your question, which was, is there something that can help us just manage those fetch requests and the loading states and stuff? And in Epic React, I do have a utility that we actually build as part of Epic React. And it is it in miscellaneous? No. Where is it? API client, maybe? I didn't think so. Oh, hooks. It's got to be in hooks. Yeah, it's this use async hook. And actually, we've got it. There's a TypeScript version of this in the TypeScript branch of, let's see, advanced, I think. Advanced React hooks. So if you go, and I'll link you to this, to next, there we go. And we go to source and utils. Yeah, so this is the one that I would use because it's great. So I will paste that.
You could put the link in, yeah.
Yeah. So if you really just need something that manages the basically the state of a promise, then this is what you need, and it's great. I should probably make it a library or something. I don't know. Then I'd have to maintain it. So.
Right.
But, yeah. So
first,
what I'd recommend in order is upgrade to React Router v6 and get all the remixed stuff that'll come really soon. If that doesn't work, then React Query is still going to be great for you. And if that doesn't work for you, then the use async hook will work.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. It's good to hear your voice again. I feel like it's been a long time since I've done this. I don't remember the last time I had office hours. I had to cancel a couple in a row. So, yeah, cool. Anyone else in the call before I go through Discord?
Yeah, I have some question. Hi, my name is Frank. So at work, we have to use an external library to manage authentication. Yeah, and this library provides us a context provider and a hook to get the user, and from this user we can get a translate function, so we can translate all of our text for all the application. And we don't like this translate function. It is too hard to use everywhere we want to use it, and so we need to override it to provide to write a simple function that use this translate function and with some default parameters and everything. And and we are not sure how to do it, how would be better for the application. We have mainly two solutions. We might want to do a hook that use the hook of the external library and create another function. That's the first solution. And we're not sure because it means that everywhere we want to use this function, we're gonna create a function at everywhere we want to use it. And the other solution is to create another context that around the context, the external provider that we must use from the external library, and create a function there for all the application that's going to be memorized. So there is only just one for all the components.
Okay. And to make sure that I understand, your concern is that you don't want to create hundreds of functions in memory?
Yeah, we are not sure because, I mean, for me, having another context is like we're starting to get a lot of context in our application, and I'm not sure it is good. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not good to create a function for every component that is going to be translating some text.
Okay, so can you explain to me why you're worried about having a lot of functions? What's the concern?
To create function at every month of components.
Yeah, what's the concern about having hundreds or even thousands of functions?
Mainly just because I don't know very well if JavaScript is optimized enough, or I don't know. It's maybe a pre-optimizing stuff I need to don't do.
Yeah. It sounds like that's what this is. So first of all, the second option is not bad. That works fine. It's not a problem to have a bunch of contexts. And it could potentially actually lead to things being faster. For like if this authentication provider can re-render for a bunch of reasons, not just because the user changed, but for various other reasons as well, by making your own context and consuming just the piece that you care about, and creating a memoized function that has dependencies on only the pieces that really matter for it, and then passing that as the value will possibly trigger fewer re-renders of components that don't need to be re-rendered. So that is, it is possible that it's going to be faster, but having hundreds or thousands of functions is not a problem in JavaScript these days. So even for low-end mobile browsers, hundreds and thousands of functions is not going to be your bottleneck at all. You'll have other things that are a lot more impactful to the performance of your app. So I wouldn't make this decision based on, oh, we don't want to have lots of functions, because that's probably not going to be a problem. I would instead make this decision based on, does that authentication provider re-render for a bunch of reasons that are completely irrelevant for all the components that are consuming it just for translations. So yeah, either option, to me, it sounds like either option is fine. Yeah, I would just,
okay.
I don't know which one I would go with. I'd probably, it seems to me like it's simpler to go with the hook that consumes the provider or like the auth provider hook, and just exposes the translate thing. That seems like that would be easier. So that'd probably be the first one I try. But if you happen to know that, like, oh yeah, this auth provider can re-render for various reasons and none of them have anything to do with translation, then making your own provider that can memoize that and only re-render consumers when the translation change matters, that can be useful. So. Okay,
thank you.
Yeah. Cool. And Salem, I see your hand is up.
Hey Kent, how you doing?
Good. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm good, man. It has been a while. I got two questions for you.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them is general programming related, and the other one is React related. So at my current job, just to give you the situation, this is what I'm doing. We have an app that's built in Knockout.js, and we're trying to migrate it to Angular so that we can use it in Angular. But we can't just start a whole new Angular project because we have customers, right? That we still gotta support the Knockout app. So we're trying to do it bit by bit, and we're trying to use web components. So that's what we're trying to use, web components to do it. And Angular has this thing called Angular Elements, which basically allows you to write web components in Angular. And the problem I'm coming across is, how do I load those web components inside of another app like Knockout.js?
So to be clear, when you say another app, this is because you're not making a new app. This is in the same app, right?
Yeah, it's in the same app.
Yeah. And so your question is more, how do I use web components inside of Knockout?
How do I use Angular web components, which is Angular Elements, inside of Knockout?
Yeah, got it. Okay, so I'm guessing that it's possible. I've never used Knockout before, but I did use Backbone, and that's kind of the same period. I think they are quite different, but they probably have the same fundamental idea of being able to have a template, and then you have an opportunity to run JavaScript once that template has updated or when it's been rendered for the first time. And when I was doing Backbone and migrating to Angular.js, and that's where we would use Angular to say, okay, Angular, I want you to bootstrap on this DOM node. And so you probably have something similar like that in Knockout, where you can say, okay, now that it's rendered, I need to do some work on the DOM. And so that's where you'll interact with Angular to bootstrap Angular inside of that Knockout component, and then let Angular do its thing. So I have no experience with Angular 2 and beyond, and so I can't really give you any specific advice on like APIs that you want to look at or anything. But that's what you're looking for. Is in Knockout, you need to have a way to say, for Knockout to say, I made these DOM nodes, here you go, run wild with them. And then a way for Angular to say, okay, go ahead and bootstrap on that DOM node, or render, or whatever they call it these days. And then you'll probably want, every migration that I've had, we've had to do both, where the old framework needed to render the new framework, and the new framework needed to render the old framework. And so you'll probably need to find some way where Angular can render Knockout. And I imagine that's the same thing. So typically in your application, you're going to, in like a application that's not migrating, you're going to have one place that says, okay, we're going to, in React land, we have hydrate, or we have render, or create root now, where you create that on some ID or some DOM node in the body or something. And you just have one place where you do that, and that's because it's over your entire application. When you're migrating and you have to render one thing in the other framework and vice versa, you're going to typically have a bunch of places like that, and they for all intents and purposes act as completely separate applications, like mini applications throughout your app. And that's just the hard thing about migrating over time. And at some point, you're going to come up against, okay, now we need to switch who's in control of routing. And that's like a big day when you switch from the old router to the new router, because that makes a big impact. And that's why you typically don't want to wait until the very end to do that. There's seems to be a forcing function to try and do that like halfway through the migration. And so that's why you need to figure out a way for Angular to render Knockout as well, so that you can switch the router to the Angular's router. So can't give you like any really specific stuff, but hopefully those are some things for you to think about and investigate.
Yeah, I'll probably watch this over again and start doing some research.
Cool.
So my second question is on React. Can I share my screen?
Yeah. Let me stop sharing. There you go.
Let's see. So I have this React app here. Okay, and it has all these jobs, and you can search jobs and get a specific job. You can load new jobs, right? And when you click on it, it loads the job on it. And I'm using React Query to load it. And and I'm also using React Router for the routing. Click back, it takes you back. But one thing is when I click on this, and if I reload it, this is what I get. Page not found.
I know exactly what this is. So it's actually a pretty simple fix. Here, I can share my screen now.
Okay, stop share.
Whoops, there we go. Okay, so let's go back to the Bookshelf app because this is also a client-side app. So the problem, let me first describe the problem, is what you have is a client-side app. It's 100% client-side, no server running at all. And so you build it, you upload static files to Netlify, and it pushes out to the CDN. And what you end up with, actually, here, where's my, I haven't built this yet. I haven't even installed things yet, so I might regret this, but yeah, we'll get this installed and built. Actually, you know what? We can do this with React Fundamentals. Here, never mind, cancel that. Because I already built React Fundamentals. So what you're left with, are you using Create React App?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So when you build a Create React App, it is going to create an index HTML file. And so when the user goes to your home page, the server is configured to send the index HTML. And that's just kind of the default, how it all works. And so that's got your doc type HTML and all that stuff. So the thing is that when you go to /job/1, what's going to happen on the CDN is it's going to look in here and look for a /jobs file or folder, and it doesn't find one. And so it gives you a 404. It'd be kind of like looking for the favicon using favicons.ico. Like it wouldn't find that file, and so it gives a 404. So that's the same thing that's happening when you go to /job/1, is it's saying, hey, I don't have a jobs folder with a 1.html in there. So 404. And this is because like you don't have any server code running. And so this is the way that CDNs work. They're just serving up static files. And so like this is obviously doesn't work for Jamstack, where you're trying to route your app to like every URL. And so what we used to do was we, instead of doing like the URL with a / whatever, we would do a /hash/ whatever. And the hash would doesn't get sent to the server. And so the server would say, okay, let me get your index HTML. And then we would pass everything after the hash to the router, or the router would just read that from the from window on the client, so that it would know what to render on the client. And so this is how we solved this problem for a long time. And you can actually still, I believe, use React Router like this if you want to. And some people would do hash bang. I don't know why they ever did that. I think I configured it once to be like @ or something. I can't remember. It was weird. I did weird stuff back then. But yeah, so that's how we would solve that problem back in the day. But now what's most common is to configure your CDN to serve the index HTML if no files can be found. So an index, say, and this is what you'll do because you're using Netlify and so am I. So you'll go to the public directory, you go to _ redirects, and Create React App will just copy that into the build directory, which gets deployed. And so you put in a /* and say, I want that to be redirected to index HTML and give it a 200. So the drawback to this is now every single page that a user goes to is going to give you a 200 status code. So if the browser goes to jobs/whatever, then of course there's no job with that ID, but they're still going to get a 200 status code. Now, at least for the user, what they are going to see is your router can be configured to say, or you can set up your router to say, if I can't find a job there, I can show them a 404 like page. But Jamstack, it is not possible with Jamstack to send the correct status code, which has implications on SEO and on like browser behavior, caching, all of that stuff, which is why I would strongly recommend switching over to Remix because then you can then you can have the correct status code. You don't have this problem. It's all routed on the server. All of your loading states can be a lot better or just go away completely. But yeah, the short answer to your question is create a _redirects file in the public and fill it with this. And I'll even paste that for you so you can copy paste.
So
there.
every time somebody refreshes that page, it's gonna just redirect to the home page then.
Oh no, so it will not. What's going to happen? Yeah, let me make sure I make that clear. What's going to happen is their browser is going to say, I want to go to jobs/1. Netlify is going to say, oh, we don't have anything at jobs/1. And so instead, and like they only send static files. That's all Netlify does, just static files. And so I don't have a file at jobs/1. And so instead, I'm going to send the file that's at /index. And so it just sends that file. So the user's browser is not actually getting redirected. You're just saying, this is the file that I want. Well, maybe it is. But that's all like transparent or behind the scenes of what's happening. Like the route is not getting redirected is what I mean by that. So the route is going to stay the same. And when that index HTML shows up, then it'll have all the JavaScript and everything. It'll load up all the JavaScript. And then your router will be like, hey, wow, I'm awake now. Let me go look at what the URL is. Oh, great. It's jobs/1. So let me render all the components that are supposed to be rendered at jobs/1. And so that's why if you go to a bookshelf.lol, and here I'm on list. If I hit refresh, I'm still on list. Or if I log in or whatever, I can't remember what my password is anymore. But yeah, yeah, it will work the way that you're expecting.
Nice.
Yeah, this is definitely a solved problem with various other problems that Remix solves.
Man, with the Remix, I'm still like, should I jump onto a new framework or just keep building with Create React App so I have that experience with just plain old React?
No, man. Yeah, get away from that stuff. Yeah, so I mean, there's something to be said for getting experience with the old stuff. But I advise learning on demand for the old stuff. So I would never tell anybody to, go ahead and use classes because that could be useful, like React classes, the React.component thing. It could be useful, but it could also be an enormous waste of your time. And so, I would suggest, I mean, there's a lot of context that I don't have about your situation and where the state of this app is and all the requirements and whatnot. But I would say that if you have the appetite for it and you're interested, then I would advise strongly to take a look at this Remixing React Router blog post and also look at the React Router 6.3.0 to learn how to upgrade to V6 of React Router. Get everything upgraded to the latest React Router. And then migrating over to Remix should, like with what I saw of your app, that should actually take like a day or two. It shouldn't be a huge endeavor. So and then your app will be so much better and you'll enjoy developing it a lot. And you don't even have to leave Netlify either. Netlify has a template that you can look at how that's all configured and stuff, and you can configure your app to be running on their serverless platform. And it'll be great. I think you'll be happy that you did that.
I see. Your whole philosophy is when I develop an app, I gotta enjoy it. And when people use my app, they have to enjoy it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is too short to not enjoy what you do.
Well, that's it, man. Hey, thank you for the help. I appreciate
Yeah.
the advice. And I may see
Absolutely.
you next week.
Oh, really? Are you going to React Miami? Oh, that's
No.
right. No, you mentioned that. Yeah, that'll be awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that.
No. I'm saying if you do the office hours.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm excited about that too.
Yay.
Yeah, cool.
And
Yeah,
so I just pasted a couple of questions. Hopefully they're quick ones for you.
Yeah, I noticed you got those in here just before Haran raised their hand, so I'll answer yours really quick.
Thank
So
you, Ken.
yeah, absolutely, Salem. So working with Turbo Repo, I haven't seen this issue, but there is that example. Yep, you posted the example. Unfortunately, there's a similar problem. Yeah, I don't know anything about Turbo Repo, so I can't, without like reading through all of this and
Right.
stuff.
I mean, just to give you a brief on Turbo Repo. So there are two mini projects in that monorepo. One is the UI library, and the other one is the app that consumes that library. The problem is that whenever you change the library, it is not reflected immediately in the application. Because somehow Remix does not, even when the library is built, it does not pick it up. Whereas if you use maybe Next.js or create React app, they immediately pick it up. So I don't know where the missing link is, but in the example also it's not clear.
I wonder why or how Next and Create React App make that work. Because as far as the way I understand it, the built files are going to go into node modules, and they don't watch node modules. So I'm curious how that works. But I do have something similar that's a little bit on the hacky side. But for our local development of Remix, we have this playground thing, and you can put a bunch of directories in here of different Remix apps, and they are git ignored, so you can do whatever you want to in here. And we have a special thing in our build script that will look through all of those and update the node modules in there. So it's like a hacky version of a monorepo tool. We are going to eventually use a better tool. But the important thing is that I want to call out specifically is you're going to need, especially when we're talking about some of this stuff, it runs on the server too. You're going to need, nope, that's not what I wanted, to do something similar to this. It's our helpers, nope, not that. Oh, you know what? That's still in dev, maybe? No, it's not. Hold on a second. Where did I put that? Scripts. Yep, it's in scripts. Playground template. So this is the template. When you create a new playground, it just copies this thing over. And it has a server.js. So this is using Express. And this is a piece that you will probably need to add. And maybe we can do something like this as like a built-in thing in the future. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of tricky when we say we are not your server. Like we do have the Remix serve thing. And maybe we could build this into that. But for a lot of people, we're not your server. Like we run on your server. So anyway, in the Express app, even in the Express template, we have something like this. It's called the Purge require cache thing, because we don't want to have to restart your server for you to be able to, to get the changes that you made on the server. And so we go through all of the require cache and we delete things from the require cache so you can require it again and get the latest changes to the code that you made. And so normally all this has is if the key starts with the build directory, then we'll delete that. So we are only deleting your changes. But in the playground, I have it also delete any remix packages as well. So stuff that's in the node module, so you can re-require what's in node modules. And so that's probably what one of the things that you'll need to do is make it so that when there's a request that comes in, you go through and delete the require cache for all of the your own modules that are like the UI library, so that they can be re-required and get the latest version of all that stuff. So that's one thing that you'll need to do. The other thing that you'll need to do is trigger a live reload for the browser, so it says, oh, something changed, let me refresh. And so what I do for that, because again, we're not watching node modules, we're only watching the app for performance reasons. What I do is and actually here, let me copy this here so that you've got that. Yeah, so how I get the live reload to happen is in our rollup config. Whenever we build, I have this little rollup plugin that after we've written the bundle to the file system, I go through and find all of the playgrounds. I do like copy all of the built files into their node modules and stuff. And then I grab their server entry. I read the content and then I write the same content. So I just like, I read it and then I write it. And it can be any file that's in the app directory. You basically save it again. And that will, Remix will see that and be like, oh, you changed the file, let me refresh. And because you've blown away the require cache every request, then it will get the latest version of whatever you changed. So those are the two things that need to be done. Some of those things we might be able to build into Remix in the future. But for right now, you just need to figure out how to do those two things.
Okay, that's good.
And I will just copy these 3 lines over to you for that. Those are the 2 things you need to do.
Perfect.
And if you figure it out, then a contribution to the examples, like an update would be sweet.
I'll do a PR if I do figure it out. Yep.
That'd be sweet. Cool. So your second question, and I will get back to you, Haran, I promise. But Naresh put these in first. So the second question is hydrate root. We totally support hydrate root right now. You can absolutely use hydrate root. And in fact, let me double check.
So if you link to the link that I have, I tried it and it did not work for me. So those are the lines that I tried.
Oh, yeah. So hydrate root. Oh, interesting. So, oh no, this is from their thing. Okay,
this is from their docs.
Yeah. I was like, that's not how you're gonna do this. Yeah. Okay. Hydrate root remix browser. Yep. Yeah, that seems unrelated to hydrate root, I think. I'm guessing though that you did not get this error before switching to hydrate root.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure actually, because I have done this exact thing and it worked just fine. In fact, I think that the indie stack, I can't remember if I reverted this because of like some TypeScript things that are not ready or something. But let me see, entry client. Yeah. Oh, actually, I reverted it because like tons of libraries aren't ready for React 18 yet. And so we're sticking in with 17 for now. But yeah, I did try this. I even deployed it and everything, and it all worked fine for me. So I'm not sure if you can make a minimal reproduction of your issue, then that would be the next best thing.
I'll just do the minimal. You start with your script and make this change and see if I can reproduce it.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Haran, what do you need? Thanks for your patience.
No worries. Can I share my screen?
Sure. Let me. What in the world? I clicked the button 3 times and it like jumped away from me.
So I'm using Remix and I'm building a sort of a game where you select parts of a story and then you play the story, and it uses a lot of animations, a lot of loading animations, which are JSON files. And I'm trying to make it work with the prefetch page links. In order to prefetch the links before the user goes to the last page, so the animations are already loaded before they need to play them. But as far as I understand, you cannot do dynamic links, right? You cannot build dynamic links using these helper?
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
So it depends. I want to prefetch the links from this page, but depending on what the user selected on the previous page, I need to load different animations, so different JSON files. So those links needs to be built dynamically depending on the user choices that were done before.
I see. So you mean the links that are in selection character?
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Yeah, so those can be dynamic, but there's no arguments to the links function, which makes it kind of hard to do anything dynamic based on those options. So you've got a couple options here. Well, first, let me explain why. So prefetching links needs to happen before you have any data. Otherwise, you end up with a waterfall. And so you'd have to go get the data first, and then you'd have to go pass that data to the links function so that you could get what links you want. That is not going to fly. It doesn't make things any better. And in fact, I think it would make it impossible in some situations. So that's why links doesn't accept any arguments. So yeah, you have a couple options. One, you could make it so that, actually, first, let me make sure I understand. Does the server know what the options are? Like, would you be able to determine this on just the server from a request?
If I have it on the cookies. So yes.
Perfect. Sweet. Yeah. So this will work. So you can make a resource route that sends the right JSON. So instead of just having static JSON, well, I mean, you could have the static JSON files, but you have a resource route that sends the right JSON file based on information in the request. And then your link would just point to that resource route. Yeah, and that could work. The tricky thing would be, I suppose, maybe caching, but you just set it to max H0 and you don't have caching. So that would work fine. So that's probably the way that I would do it. The other thing that you could do is, instead of using prefetch page links, you could just do the links yourself, render those links on your own. And that also works. I don't know if that would be if I would prefer that over the resource route. So you might try both and see which you dislike the least, and just go with that one. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, I think just to make sure I understand the resource route option, the resource route would be as a fixed URL where I return, depending on what the user chose, different JSONs, the different contents, right?
Yep.
Right. That makes sense. Great. Yeah, I think I like
resource routes, man. They're awesome.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. All right. Is it Frank or Frank?
It's Frank.
Frank.
It's French.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, good question. Sometimes I see you generating some links from a shorter domain you have, kcd.im, and I'm really curious, how does this work? Do we have some DNS shortcut set up somewhere? Or?
Yeah, I've got a video that explains the whole thing. So I will, I'll share a link to that video. If you go to that link, no, just kidding. That's a Rickroll. No, the real link is shortener. Nope, that's shortener. There we go. Then that will explain how you can make one of these yourself in like 5 minutes. It's so cool. It takes longer to buy the domain than to make the shortener. So yeah, give that a look.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Cool. Anyone else in Zoom? We are over time now, but it's been a couple weeks, so I've got a backlog here that I want to go through. But you get priority in Zoom, so. Okay, good. Feel free to interrupt me. Okay, so I missed answering this question on the last office hours, so I'm going to answer it this time. And actually, I think they sent it again. So actually, I'll go to the time they sent it again, just so in case they updated it or anything. Here it is. Hey, Matt, I'm answering this now. So we got a couple questions about OSS. Found some issues. Feel relatively frustrated on looking at people's work. I feel like the more I look at, the more I don't know. It takes a pretty long time to understand their code, design, and stuff like that. Do you feel the same way? Yeah, I do. Looking at other people's work, especially in open source where you work at completely different companies and have different coding styles, yeah, that can be tricky. So don't feel bad. Yeah, that it's hard. You get better with it, or you get better at it the more you do it. So over time, I think you'll figure that out. So yeah, sorry. Yes, it is hard. When I don't have any like tips, you know what? Somebody did ask me years ago how I learn an open source code base. And somebody asked me on office hours a while ago, and I referenced it, and now I can't remember. Let's see. Open source code base. There it is, how I learned an open source code base. So maybe this will be helpful. Hopefully. Here, actually, I'll put it right there. Okay, and the next question. Second, when I open a monorepo, say it's Material UI, the VS Code becomes so laggy, disabling ESLint server helps. But do you have any suggestions keeping my server on? No idea. Sorry. So far, like, I mean, I've got an M1 Max, so I don't know if it would be slow on other computers, but my VS Code hums right along just fine in the Remix repo. And that's got quite a bit of stuff. It's got like all the examples and stuff in there. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have any suggestions. Sorry. You could turn it off. Yeah. I mean, ESLint is slow relative to other tools that we use. So sorry about that. I don't really have any suggestion there. For env file issue, do you commit or not commit a .env file? Here, sorry, just moving this thing over. Okay. Yeah. What if I want to facilitate new joiners workflow, like letting them quickly adapt to our dev environment, but not committing APIs keys mistakenly? Any good solutions? Yeah. Okay. Great question. We actually, first of all, do not commit it. No, don't do that. That is not good. But what you can do to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish here is make a .env example that has stuff that's like good for local, or maybe just has example stuff. KentCDodds.com has a .env example that has just like a bunch of comments in it, explains what you need and whether or not it's mocked and stuff. And so actually people can run the whole thing locally without even having proper keys, because I have everything mocked, which is pretty necessary when you have open source contributors and stuff. So yeah, that's what I would suggest, is having a .env example. In the Indie stack, when you create a new version of, or like generate a new Remix project with the Indie stack, we have this Remix init script that will automatically copy the .env to it'll basically just copies .env example to .env. And so like if you want to have some sort of setup script that does that, makes that easier or something, that is also a thing that you can do. But yeah, don't commit those. You don't want those in your source control and history and stuff. Okay, great. Logan, if you have an error message, for example, sorry, Logan, let me come up here and find the oldest questions. That's what I should be optimizing for here. So, Alan, all right, Commander Kent Dodds. Hello. Longtime admirer and follower. Me and my colleagues recently had a discussion surrounding the front end RTL testing best practices. The question is, what do you think about testing API contracts in our UI tests? For example, we're using MSW to mock our network response. We know exactly what the API expects. However, this can change. Would it make sense to write some tests with the mindset of ensuring the UI sends exactly what the API would be expecting, or should we not care about those sorts of details? Currently, we're making broad assumptions about API from our tests just to test failure and success cases, but not actual API details. Half of the team was split in thinking that this gives us more confidence, the other half thinking it doesn't. And would love your, yeah, okay, this is great. So as soon as you mock, you poke a hole in the reality, and now you're not getting any confidence in the thing that you've mocked. So yeah, you're using MSW, you're not actually hitting the endpoints. So you don't know if you're sending the right stuff and it's going to send the right stuff back to you. This is why end-to-end tests are really useful, having a handful of those. But sometimes having like a API contract test can be really helpful as well. I would set those as separate things. And in some places that I've been, people were working on having a script that runs against the live API, records the request response stuff, and then saves responses to disk. And then the mock will send those recorded responses. And that can be quite useful. And so then you actually don't need to have the tests. You just make your MSW send back those mocked responses. You run the scripts, you run your tests, and now you're confident that everything is still working properly. So that's another thing, another option. But yeah, as far as like, I think that's useful to do that. You definitely want your mocks to behave as close to the, or at least, so they don't have to do all of the things that the backend is doing. Otherwise, you're rewriting your backend in MSW, but the interface should be the same. So it should receive all of the data that it's supposed to get, and the MSW should assert on that and say, like, these are the things that I need, and it just asserts on it. And then it should send back the same data response that your backend would send. And as far as like doing all the things like scheduling tasks or whatever, it doesn't have to do all of that stuff. But it should do everything that the actual backend does as far as the interface is concerned. So then you get confidence on working with that interface. And then, yes, if you want to have something in place that gives you confidence that your mock is correct, then that is good. And that will give you extra confidence. If you have a really solid API that doesn't change regularly, it doesn't make breaking changes, it only makes, it's doing some sort of versioning, then that becomes less of a need. But yeah, if you've got backend engineers who just sling code left and right and you can't really trust them, or you've got an API that does that, then you'll probably want to have something set up to make sure that the request response stuff is all what you expect it to be. So good luck with that, Alan. Yeah, just answered this. Okay, cool. Vincent, first of all, awesome content. Is there something similar to rewrites in Remix? Yeah, so not built in. So and actually I think Michal, yeah, talked about how, yes, you can do something similar, but that is going to be a redirect, not a rewrite. And I explained that rewrites allow you to maintain the URL, but render a different page. So yes, you can do this in Remix. There's not like a built-in rewrites feature, but there is a pretty easy way to do this. Here, I'll just use my, whoops, that is not the package or the project I wanted to open, intro demo. So let's say that you're in, on the notes page, and you also want to have note.tsx be at the same place. So what you're going to do is you'll say export star from notes and export default from notes. And now that's effectively a rewrite. The one challenge that you'll have with this is that you'll need to make this and other pages respect that route. So for example, this is redirecting to notes. And so you have to check, okay, who's the refer here? If it's /note, then let's have it redirect back to note instead. So it's not, and I expect you have the same problem in Next.js. You'd probably have to do the same thing in Next. But yeah, that is the basic idea. And actually what you could do is just say redirect to where the refer is. So you'd say request, headers, get, refer, or you have to spell it wrong. I don't know. It's weird. Or you could say notes. I think that would probably do it for you. But there, yeah, you're probably going to run into a lot of things like that. With a rewrites feature, you just have to make sure, what URL am I at? Let's make sure we stay on that one. But that's it. That's how you do rewrites in Remix. I don't know if we're going to add any additional functionality to that. There's actually also the Remix config where you can have define or routes. Yep. And this has define routes, and then you return define routes. Yeah, I can't remember this API, but look up the routes thing, and you could create routes that like URL routes that point to the notes thing. But again, you're still going to have the issue where you need to make sure that anytime you're navigating around, you keep them on the same URL, which is just a foundational problem with this idea. So that is that. Hopefully that helps answer your question. Just answered. Good luck. Okay, Mukul. I'm probably saying that wrong. You can correct me. Sorry. Learning working with React and other related libraries for more than a year, and I personally feel like I know enough about these. I feel like I don't need to keep learning new stuff related to these libraries. I'm not considering that I know everything. I think I can tackle these complex issues. Okay. Is this feeling normal among devs? Oh, okay. So you're just wondering, is it normal to feel like you've learned everything, like, or like the foundational stuff after just a year? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like the software dev world is a really big world, and you can definitely feel pretty confident with the basics after a short while. But there's always something new to learn. So I'm not sure if that's a normal feeling. I think most people feel like they'll never be able to learn it all, but I don't know. Maybe you're just really confident, and that's good. So yep, there you go. Answered just now. Okay. And Zephania. Hopefully I said that correct. Okay, so we're talking about use effect extra credit 7. You mentioned that there was an issue with using the key prop with the error boundary components such that there was always a flash of a submit Pokemon whenever Pokemon name changed. Why does this issue not happen when using class component version of error boundary and only happen with React error boundary library? I think I'm going to need you to reproduce or like give me the code for both, because I'm not sure that it is not an issue with the class component version of error boundary. Oh wait, okay, no. You're saying that when we did the error boundary for this. Okay, let me pull this up. This is exercise 8. I think it's number 8, but we're off by 1. Yeah, that was not my decision. So this will be 7. 6, I guess. Okay, so let's go with extra credit 4 and 7. So reset the error boundary, create an error boundary component. Okay, so here, let me bump this up a bit. So we've got an error boundary, and do we have a key prop? No, we don't have a key prop. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by it wasn't a problem with the other one. I don't think that for the class version, we had the ability to reset. Yeah, there's no ability to reset here. Yeah, we didn't have that feature. Sorry, I'm probably misunderstanding you. If you want to come back next week and like give me a specific example, you could even just like fork this in Code Sandbox or something and show me what you mean, because I'm pretty sure I'm missing something, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a problem in both. Okay, let me know if you'd like to follow up. Yeah, like a Code Sandbox would probably be really helpful there. Okay, Matt, I answered yours. Okay, now we're back to Logan. Here we go, and we are. I'm almost done. Hooray! Probably a couple other questions in here, but yeah, let's get this done. Let me make sure I don't have any meetings I'm missing right now. Nope, we are good. If you have an error message, for example, that is a long sentence in your jest test, does it make sense to copy and paste the sentence back to be in the document, or to be better or bad practice to export the sentence as a const and import that into your test in case the sentence needs to be changed in your test passage? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is a common question. In fact, we were just asking about that or trying to decide that with our CLI, the Remix CLI. Eventually, we may actually internationalize the CLI. And so it does make sense to externalize those strings so that they can be translated and stuff. And when you do that, then it makes a lot of sense to just put them right into the test assertions. The challenge with that is you could inadvertently make a typo or delete the content of that string, and so it's just an empty string, and your test would not be able to tell you that that you did that, which is why I typically say even if you internationalize, you should still have the English version expectations and everything in your tests, because then that gives you confidence that your internationalization process is working. In the case of like it's a long string and should we export it as a const, that's kind of like internationalization with just one language. I still feel like you get more confidence that that things are working if you duplicate the string, and that's where to-match inline snapshot comes in quite handy, so that you don't have to actually copy paste it, but Jest can keep that updated for you. We don't have anything like that for to be in the document, but you could look for the node and then do an inline string. The other option is and this is what I actually typically do, is to be in the document accepts a regex. And so then you just do a regex that matches part of the string, and just enough of the string to know that, yep, that string got in there. And that doesn't really protect you against typos and stuff, but it would protect you against like, oh, I accidentally cleared that. Now it's an empty string or something, or my translation library is busted and it's not sending me the right string properly. So that's probably what I would do, is just to do a regex that matches enough of the string to make it worthwhile. So good luck, Logan. Just answered. Okay. And let's see what other ones we had after we started. Gabriel, I have a question. How do you handle business logic inside components in React? Do you separate in custom hooks? So yeah, that's a great question. I've got a nuanced answer for you. So when to break up components into multiple components or hooks. So basically, don't do it until you feel like you need to. That's my answer. Adding abstractions just makes things more complex, even if they can also make it easier to understand. So yeah, I would say break it up when you feel like you need to, not before. Walter, my name is Walter, live in João. Am I saying that right? I'm probably saying that wrong. Pessoa, Paraíba, Brazil. Okay, there you go. I tried. And I'm really excited about Remix. Oh, great. I also am excited about Remix. Remix. Party. Hooray. Okay, sweet. That redirect file, fix your issue. Glad to hear that, Salem. And I think there we go. Edison, would you be able to recommend a good package for a rich text editor? I tried Draft.js, but it looks too much to get up and running. Any recommendation would help. Edison, so I've never tried Draft.js. Actually, I think I did once. I had to do something with it. It is not easy. And yeah, a lot of people complain about it, but you're in luck because Facebook just released a new thing. So they released Draft.js, but they also released a new thing called lexical, I think dev, maybe. Yep, there it is. And so that's what if I were in your shoes, this is what I would look at first. I have never had to build a really complex text editor, but yeah. Excuse me. But it's new, it's open source, it's based on their stuff that they're doing over at Facebook. So it seems like probably a good place to start. Like, look, he mentions Obi-Wan. Nice, that's cool. And ooh, Hello world. This is a fun thing. Is it gonna type for me? Come on. I'm talking. Try again. Okay, are you working now? Nope. It's not working. Okay, well, not everything demos perfectly every time. But anyway, I would probably look into this. Good luck. Okay, I think I got them all. Good luck, Edison. Frank, you've got another question.
Yeah, sorry, just one last. So I've been trying to use Center lately and the Center app, and mainly to try the Pomodoro technique. And I would want to ask you, how do you free your mind when you're doing the breaks? Like for me, when I tried, I'll always keep back to thinking about the current problems I'm having when I'm developing, So I'm having trouble to disconnect, just for the break.
Yeah. So one thing that helps me a lot, well, for one, I will say that sometimes I just code through my break and then take the break later. So like I definitely have a hard time sometimes disconnecting from Discord or from Discord. I'm looking at Discord and I don't from what I'm working on. So yeah, I can relate. What's most effective for me is one, they have the breathing thing that is actually quite nice. So I'll do the breathing thing sometimes. Other times I will leave my office and go upstairs and just say hi to my wife and kids. I will open the window and look outside. And I will sometimes like do stretches and stuff. I'm not super concerned if I'm still kind of thinking about it. But yeah, doing those things kind of helps me not naturally think about other things and disconnect. So.
Okay, thank you. I'll probably play with my cat or something.
Yeah.
Mostly
like get a your cat's toy or whatever and play with the cat.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult because I'm working from home and I'm often alone.
Yeah. I mean, even like one other thing that I do sometimes is I will clean. I'll go like pick up a couple of things. That also, maybe your house is super clean because you don't have kids, but my house is never clean, and so I always have something to pick up. But yeah, if you just like go do some dishes or something like that, yeah, I do that sometimes too.
Why not? Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I think that's everybody. So thanks everybody for showing up and hanging out. I believe that I'm going to be in Miami next week for React Miami. I'm so excited. But I believe I'll be back. I come back Thursday evening. So yeah, so Friday morning I should be around. We should be able to hang out and do this again. So feel free to fill this up with more questions and we'll get to them next week. Thanks everybody. We'll see you all in the future.